Okay, hey Aaron, Rebecca, let's get the.
Yeah, just one quick thing. My daughter just got accepted to Yeshiva University.
I saw that Mazel
Mazel
Tov.
tov.
Thank you.
Mazel tov.
It's a beautiful thing. She should continue to give you and your wife nachas, and
Thank you.
to start her foundation of building a nice Jewish life, and hopefully a Mirz Hashem, a Jewish family.
Thank you.
All right,
Just to let you know, I got my notebook, so
all right. It sounds
I'm
like a
taking
plan.
notes.
So what we're going to do in this class is we're going to start with learning, like I was telling Barbara before, we're going to start with learning the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. This group of laws we actually posted over the past few weeks on the group, but we're going to go over it with the footnotes. And when we finish a certain section of the laws, we're going to turn over to the Shemirath Shabbos Kehilchathah. I posted where you can buy the book. I haven't yet received access to a PDF file for that. So if people want to join along in the reading, you're going to have to go and purchase the set. In the meantime, we're not holding there yet. I'll give heads up so you can have time to do that. I'm going to read in the Hebrew, and then we're going to follow along, and then we'll go to the footnotes. A lot of the footnotes in the Chabad.org over here are important for us understanding the more detailed the laws of Shabbos. Of course, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, unlike the Shulchan Aruch, is the short version. But the Rebbe was very into learning Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. It's important for people because sometimes the long version will take a while and you miss out basic laws. And it's also very good that we're learning this today. Today's Tanya, meaning Thursday's Tanya, the last portion of Tanya. That is, we complete the Tanya today before Yutes Kislev. Well done, Aaron. The last part of the Tanya is talks about the importance. The Alter Rebbe talks about the importance of learning the laws of Shabbos, to be knowledgeable in the laws of Shabbos. Otherwise, you can't properly keep Shabbos if you don't know the laws. Yes, Aaron.
Which version of this? I have a kitchen Nora, which is for Ashkenaz, 2-volume set with laws for everything.
We're learning. We're going with Ariel and King's High and Howard's online and YouTube. We're going learning this one, the Chabad.org one, which is it doesn't have any extra insertions in it. It's the basic version of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Okay, let's
Just
start.
was wondering if I could follow with mine. I guess not. I'll follow online. Thank you so much.
And also it's good because we have the footnotes. Shabbos Kodesh, halacha 1. Shabbos Kodesh hu ha'ois hagadol v'habris. Shabbos is the sign. There's certain things that are signs that are beyond just mitzvahs. There's no such thing as just a mitzvah, but nevertheless, there are certain signs that are certain things that identify a person, a Jew, as a Jew. And the ois, gadol, v'habris, and the covenant is Shabbos. Meaning, Shenasan lanu hakadosh baruch hu, God has given us ladas, so we should know. Ki b'sheishes yamim asa Hashem es hashamayim es haaretz. God created the world in 6 days. V'chol asher bahem, and everything that's in the world, everything was created in the 6 days. V'shabos v'yom hashvi, and he rested on the 7th day. V'hu yisoid ha'amuna. The Kitzur says this is the foundation of our believe in God, knowing that there's 6 days of creation and the 7th day God rested. Hey Lorraine, welcome for joining. Welcome to the class. Our rabbis have told us Shekula Shabbos Kechol mitzvos. Shabbos weighs against all the other mitzvos. So that's the importance of Shabbos. Kol HaMeshamer Shabbos, whoever keeps the Shabbos Kehilchathah in its proper ways, and that's why we have to learn the laws. You have to know the laws of Shabbos. Again, the Alter Rebbe says today in Tanya, it's impossible. It's impossible. You can't just say, "Well, I'm gonna keep Shabbos." This a commitment to keeping Shabbos requires the studying of the laws of Shabbos. And if a person keeps it properly, is ki'ilu mekayim kol ha'Torah kula, as if you've kept the entire Torah. Like we said, that the Shabbos is weighs against all the mitzvahs. So if you keep the Shabbos, it's like keeping all the mitzvahs. Now that's the person who's keeping Shabbos. What about he or she who desecrates the Shabbos? It's not just you don't keep Shabbos. It's ki'ilu kafar b'chol Torah kula. It's as if you are a person who doesn't believe. You're a person who disregards the entire Torah in its fullest. He quotes, this is a law that's brought down the Rambam and Magid Mishnah, etc. And it says Ezra, the scribe, the one who helped set up the second, so to say, the second temple, that says, it says, Har Sinai Yeradata, that God came down on the Mount Sinai, Vatitain, Lahem, Mishpatim, Yisharim, V'Tayrasa, Emes, that He gave us the righteous judgment and the true laws, and your holy Shabbos you may know to them. What do we see from that? That Shabbos is its own, it's almost its own category, and that's the importance of Shabbos. In this class, I'm going to go through the footnotes because some of them are just footnotes which are just letting us know who said what, but others are important. So number one is that Shabbos is equivalent to all the mitzvahs is a idea that's brought down in the tractate in the Yerushalmi, and he quotes the Zohar that says that the importance of it's as if you're keeping the entire Torah if you keep Shabbos. Okay, and he quotes about Ezra as well. Okay, so that's Haidan. That's law number one. Okay, so we learned basically the importance of keeping Shabbos, and if Shabbos is as a sign, is an ois. Other things that are oises also, there's tefillin for men is also a sign of an identity of a Jew. Now it says like this: Beis, Kol hamachalas the Shabbos, whoever desecrates the Shabbos b'frehesya. Now this is now becoming there's a shop in Jerusalem on Rehov Aza of all places. Now Rehov Aza is an interesting road, but either way, it's called Rehov Aza because once upon a time that was the road to go to Aza. So there's a store in Jerusalem on Rehov Aza that has a big sign, and it says, in this store, we keep Shabbos b'frehesya, we keep Shabbos publicly. So what's b'frehesya? B'frehesya means in public. So we keep Shabbos publicly, means we're proud to keep Shabbos. But here, what about a person who desecrates? Call him Mechalitz Shabbos b'frehesya, a person who desecrates the Shabbos in a public way. Knowingly, you have to remember this. We're learning the law here, but there's a lot that are connected to a person we're going to learn now very strong language about a person who does not keep Shabbos. And especially if they do it publicly. Like the idea of doing it publicly means you have such a disregard for Shabbos that you don't care if it's in public that people see. And even though, there's a concept of honesty, meaning to say, don't pretend like you're something else. If you're not religious, don't pretend to be religious kind of idea. But when it comes to Shabbos, the person who desecrates the Shabbos publicly, it's worse than just desecrating the Shabbos. So the idea of publicly, because it's literally in God's face. The idea is that we're like we said, it's an oath, it's a sign about a belief of God's creation in the world. And in public, you're saying, I don't care to even publicly to desecrate the Shabbos. But this is again, and we're not passing judgment on individuals because there's a lot involved with people's knowledge and understanding what it means to be Jewish. But we're going to learn the law as it says it. Whoever desecrates the Shabbos publicly, it's a very strong language. That person is considered as a non-Jew in all respects. That doesn't mean you're not Jewish. It says it doesn't make you a non-Jew, but you're behaving like a non-Jew. In which means, this doesn't. He's explained now what it means. What's that mean halachically? If a person who publicly desecrates the Shabbos, knowing all the laws of Shabbos, knowing that you're not supposed to, knowing and being brought, again, you're a true mazid, a true doing it on purpose. If that person is to touch wine, that's not mevushal, that's not cooked wine, like we spoke about in the class, it's prohibited. You're not allowed to drink that wine. Vapashu aifa, and bread that person bakes, pasha of the chavim has no different than bread that will be baked. We'll see in a second the footnotes by a Gentile. V'chein tavshel, foods that he or she would cook. Shumavashal, that they cook, havi kamoi, bishul oivet kachavim. So we know we're going to learn in other laws, what does it mean? Pasakum, non-Jewish bread, or bishulakum, non-Jewish cooked things. People are very careful not to eat foods that are cooked by non-Jew. If it was cooked by a person who desecrates the Shabbos publicly, those foods and the bread and the wine are all as if a non-Jew touched them or cooked them. Uperfehesya, now, he says, what is it? How do we define publicly? So he says, hold on, Aaron, we're going to finish the law. Publicly means bifnei asar b'Yisrael. Yeah, this is a very important point. Whenever it talks about Kiddush Hashem, to sanctify God's name, or desecrate God's name, it's not in front of Gentiles. It's bifnei asar b'Yisrael. It has to be publicly in front of other Jews. And he says, now, he defines. So lavdavka sha'oise b'fnei mamish doesn't mean you have to line up 10 Jews and say, look, I'm going to desecrate the Shabbos, God forbid. El sheyoidim mehavera. You do it in a public way that 10 Jews know that you're a person that purposely desecrates the Shabbos. The hachi muchich b'shas poiskin. This is what it's brought down in the Talmud. We'll see in a second. Gabi vaha Esther b'fehesi that even though Esther didn't live with Achashverosh in front of 10 people, right? There wasn't 10 people in her bedroom when she lived with Achashverosh, but everyone knew that she was Achashverosh's wife. So the Gemara, when the Gemara discusses the question about Esther living with a Gentile, and it was public knowledge. It was public knowledge. Everyone knew that Esther married the king. They don't have to be in the bedroom. So too writes the Pri Megadim, which is a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. Pirsim Havi Asar Yisrael. That what does it mean to be in public? Is that it's in front of 10 Jewish people, or it's known that it's public in front of them. Yes, Aaron.
Just a quick question. So, when I visit my parents, I celebrate Shabbos with my son. We go to shul and everything. But I know my mom goes shopping on Saturday or during Shabbos. So I can eat her food or I can't eat her food, or she's my parent, and so I should just honor her.
You're going to go there on Shabbos, and
I go there on Shabbos because she doesn't live in my state. So I visit her for like a week, and then we go to Shabbos services in an Orthodox shul. We do everything, me and my son. But my mom goes out and shops.
Okay, she's not considered professia because she doesn't know the laws properly. That's called a tinik shenishba. Today, most people, Jews, have not been brought up, but that doesn't change the fact that you should not be eating from food that's been bought, that you know has been bought on Shabbos. You should try to make sure your food for Shabbos has been purchased before Shabbos.
Yeah, usually my food is, but I'm asking. So, she can cook. We can't have food.
You can't. No, she can't cook for you either. But anything, your food has to be ready as if your Shabbos is like you're at home, like all your food is prepared.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay,
but then sometimes she brings extra food. She wants to give me a treat or something. Should not eat it.
You should not eat it. No.
Thank you.
Okay, footnote number 6. If he or she transgresses a rabbinic prohibition of work on Shabbos, so now the question is like this: what kind of desecration are we talking about? Are we talking about only a biblical law, you're not keeping the biblical Shabbos, or is it also including you're not keeping certain rabbinic laws of Shabbos? So is that considered a person who desecrates the Shabbos, and therefore that person is disqualifying your foods? So he brings down like this: if he transgresses, he or she, a rabbinic prohibition work on Shabbos, not a biblical. So the Pri Chadash rules that he is not like a non-Jew. But the Ber Hativ, which is another commentary, rules that he is. So there's a disagreement about a person. A lot of people actually who are a little, try to be smart about Shabbos. They'll say, I mean smart, I mean a smart aleck kind of way. They'll be like, well, this is not really rabbinic. This is only rabbinic. It's not Talmud. It's not biblical Shabbos. So the question is, a person who desecrates the Shabbos only in rabbinic laws, but keeps Shabbos, let's say, in the biblical laws. So there's a disagreement. The Pri Chadash says that doesn't disqualify, that doesn't define this person as. And it's not just foods. There's other things that are included in that. And the Barbara, and the Ber Hativ, another commentary says that that's also a desecration of Shabbos and publicly that would disqualify the person. Yes, Barbara.
So I'm in healthcare, and every so often I have to be what's called on call, and that means that I need to make arrangements for people to come into work if they've called off sick, or if somebody doesn't show up to go to work. Does that mean I've broken the laws of Shabbat if I'm doing that?
No. So if you're in healthcare, a health professional, a doctor or nurse I think traditionally the law is that if a person is able, like there's times that you're able and times you're unable. There's times that you're able to make sure that you're not on call for Shabbos. You're able to position yourself in your job that way. Let's say in Eretz Yisrael, they tried the best they can. They have non-Jewish nurses and doctors usually on call on the Shabbos. But if there's no other way, then and you are the person that has to service this person who's not well, then you're allowed to do that on Shabbos. And obviously, you have to check, you have to work out what that means as far as transportation, as far as hours works, and as far as it doesn't just turn off Shabbos for you, and you have to hold on, Aaron. You have to see which parts are you allowed to, and what parts you're not allowed to. But that's more detailed, and I'll check up on that and get back to you. But there is that question, and it's an obvious question, where your job requires you to be a health professional on Shabbos. Obviously, if there's no other way, you can, but doesn't just mean Shabbos gets turned off. It means you have to keep as much as possible Shabbos while you are being in the service of a health professional. Yes, Aaron.
I'm just going to say for her that there is a book for Hatzalah, so for working on Shabbos. If you read it, it would basically cover a lot of healthcare workers, not just Hatzalah.
Post information about that book on the chat after the class.
Okay, I'll try to get it.
All right, so he says like this. What was the question about Esther? So it says, since her marriage to King Achashverosh was halachically illicit, right? She was marrying a non-Jew and known to the public. Everyone knew that she was Queen Esther. So why didn't Esther give up her life rather than transgress the halacha? That was the question. We learned this, actually. Those who joined my class in Sanhedrin, this question was asked about Esther. In what way was she permitted to be with Achashverosh? All right, that's nothing to do with the laws of Shabbos. So he's just giving us information about what does it mean publicly, but that question itself is addressed in the Talmud. Okay, let's go to Sif Gimel. Lefikach, therefore, Mishabeach Hanavi va'omer, the prophet offers praise and says, Ashrei Enosh, that fortunate is the man, Yasa Zaisu ben Adam Yachzik ba, that fortunate is the man who does this, and the son of man who maintains this. That Shomer Shabbos Machalaloi, that this he who preserves the Shabbos from desecration, means you don't desecrate it. Kehilchathah, and whoever keeps the Shabbos with its proper laws, and you respect it. We're going to learn what it means to respect the Shabbos. You take pleasure, each person according to their abilities. The prophet tells us that reward for keeping, respecting, taking pleasure in Shabbos is a reward that we take a reward in this world. Not every mitzvah that we see specifically a reward in this world. And this doesn't include the great reward that you get in the world to come. The world to come, the reward is on a much different level. But even in this world, where we see things in a small vision, that even there's reward. Shnemer, as the verse says, that if if you restrain on Shabbos from your feet, meaning you don't walk out of the Tchum Shabbos, you don't walk further than you should on Shabbos. So when those people live in Brooklyn, and it's not such a big deal, but where Barbara lives on the island, it's not so simple. You have to make sure that you're not walking too far from the next house. Is asois chafatzecha b'yom kodshi, and abstains from doing your business on my holy day. V'karasa l'Shabbos oineg, and you proclaim Shabbos a delight day. L'kdosh Hashem mechuboid, and the sanctified of God, honored and honor. Asois derachecha, from not engaging in your weekly activities. Mimoitze chevsecha v'daber davar, and abstain from pursuing your business affairs and from speaking words pertaining to weekly needs, means you don't talk things that you shouldn't be talking about on Shabbos. Oz tishaneg al Hashem, then you will delight yourself before Hashem. V'chavticha b'masei aretz, and I will cause you to ride over the heights of earth. V'chalticha nachlas Yaakov, and I will cause you and will nourish you with the inheritance of Jacob, Avicha, your father. Kapi Hashem Dibur, for the mouth of God has spoken. This is the prophet about a person who keeps and takes delight in Shabbos. So in the second seif, we talk about the person who desecrates the Shabbos, and now we talk about the person who praises the Shabbos and keeps the Shabbos according to the halacha. Let's see if there's any important footnotes that we want to add. So what does it mean not to walk too far? So not walking too far is, the tchum means the boundary. You must not walk more than 2,000 amos past the city limits. So if there's a city limits I've only one time in my life experienced. I mean, it depends. You could go to Mount Rainier for Shabbos and take a cabin somewhere, and it's not a city. Then you can't walk more than 200 amas, which is about. And we'll talk about that in chapter 95. But it's about 2,000 amas is about 3,000 feet, so it's not that far. Okay. So here we're talking about what does it mean speaking? This is an important law. What does it mean? But this is a law that gets quoted many times from the verse, "V'daber davar." What does it mean to speak? So he quotes Rashi in Tractate of Shabbos, page 113. And Rabbeinu Tam maintains that this is included in the prohibition of pursuing your needs, means talking about things on Shabbos is like you're looking to pursue your needs, and explains that on Shabbos one should not engage in too much small talk, not just business needs, but also small talk in general. There are people I've hosted people that will not talk on Shabbos. Literally, they will not talk on Shabbos. So there's a concept of not talking on Shabbos based on this verse, and he says include both the above v'daber davar, and they use this idea of the verse that talks about speech. If you enjoy telling stories, you may do so. So here the Ramah adds, if a person likes to be a storyteller as a way of enjoying the day, I'll get back to you in a second, Aaron. So one can do that on the Shabbos. I mean, again, there are people who don't talk at all. But that said, if a person wants to tell a story on Shabbos, the Ramah says that's allowed. Yes, Aaron.
Those people who don't talk, the studying, count as talking.
No. They study, but they won't talk. Like literally, I've had a person at my Shabbos table from Jerusalem who will not talk on Shabbos. Will not talk on Shabbos. So even at the meal, will not say anything, and unless it's a Dvar Torah, but will not talk will not even say pass the chicken. I'm talking about literally not talk on Shabbos. Okay, that's an extreme undertaking. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's an extreme undertaking, but that's what some people do. Okay, he continues. Ksiv zocher es Shabbos HaKadshay. Now we have to understand, what does that mean? You have to remember Shabbos, and the idea is that remembering the Shabbos is not just that you remember Shabbos on Shabbos, but that we're supposed to integrate Shabbos into our lives constantly. Pirish, so he explains, it means a person has to remember every single day as Shabbos the holy day of Shabbos. Meaning, how does that translate? This is based on a Talmud, but we're going to learn the halacha now, the law. Unlike anything we've learned until now, it's not. This is the law. I mean, this is the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is the law. So it means it could be there's different customs about, but this is the halacha of what one is supposed to have, one is supposed to behave. Meaning to say, if you come upon something nice, a good food. Interesting. Hold on, I'll get back to something in a second. It's not something you find usually. It's a delicacy. And it's okay. It could remain in its good state until the Shabbos. Means if it's in a rot, or it's going to get if it ages and doesn't age well, meaning to say if you could refrigerate it or freeze it, you can buy it any day in the week for Shabbos already. You don't have to wait. And it's a good thing. It means to buy on Sunday, if you see something good that you could put in the freezer and it'll be as good, frozen, as fresh, then buy it for Shabbos. Uber Shabbos, and also that's one thing. Next thing is on the Erev Shabbos, mitzvah sheyashkim a person should wake up early on Friday. Liknois sarachei Shabbos, to buy what you need for Shabbos. V'yoichan, here he says Allah. I'm going to get into the details of the law in a second. A person usually is not supposed to do things before they pray the morning prayer, but on Friday one's allowed to go out and buy even before the prayer will vad, but there's a condition. You shouldn't miss out of davening, and this is a big deal, by the way. A lot of times, especially on a winter Friday, when you're kind of running with time and trying to balance your time. Shabbos comes in at 4:00 and you need to buy food and you need to daven, you need to take the kids and pick up the kids. It's a school day, right? The winter's not the summer, so it's both a school day and it's Erev Shabbos. So you have to balance, you have to do time management. Everyone knows time management requirements on Friday. So you're allowed to go shopping if you want to go early. Let's say you go to 24-hour ShopRite. You can go at 5:00 in the morning. It's easy, empty. But not in a way that's going to shake up your ability to daven with a minyan. That's not all the opinions, but that's the opinion he brings down. And its best is to buy on Erev Shabbos for Shabbos, then to buy on Yom Chamishi. Most people, a lot of people, do their big Shabbos shop on a Thursday. So he says better shop on Friday than a Thursday. Again, time permitted. But something that you need preparation for. Let's say you want to make a chicken soup on Thursday night. Obviously, you're not going to say, well, I'm going to wait to buy my soup supplies on Friday because it says you're supposed to make on Friday. You need to be cooking on Thursday night. So you obviously have to buy. You can be a Chamishi. You should buy it on Thursday. And here the Kitzur adds, every time you go into a purchase, and it's for Shabbos, you should say, the Kavod Shabbos, I'm buying this for the sake of Shabbos. You're integrating by speech, not just by action, by speech of your connection to what you're doing now to Shabbos. And now he adds, Mitakonis Ezra. It's Ezra who made many different decrees. In the Second Temple, he kind of reshaped certain ideas of Judaism that we have from Ezra. He says, from Ezra's Takana is, Shiyya mechabsim habgadim b'yem hachamishi, that a person should clean their clothes for Shabbos on Thursday for Friday, because cleaning clothing is time consuming and better than running the machine and dryer on Friday. Do it on Thursday. Shabbos and shouldn't do on Shabbos. So Ezra actually said better certain things that should be done before on Thursday than Friday. Why? Because Shabbos washing is something that is different than actually buying, purchasing, and cleaning and cooking, and therefore the clothes washing should be prepared on Thursday. Yes, Eric.
But the way we do it is all the clothes I wore on Shabbos that I want to wear again, I do on Sunday. Is that a problem?
Say that again.
Okay, so this Shabbos, I'll wear a shirt and pants and a jacket, and I want to wash them on Sunday. Because just time permitting, is that a wrong thing, or is just not the best thing?
Listen, if you're accustomed for the whole week, you're not just doing it for Shabbos, you're doing clothing for the whole week, right?
Right, but I put my Shabbos shirts in there.
So if you're already doing it for the whole week, if you can mention the Kavod Shabbos Kodesh, but if you're not going to do it, if to do a separate Rosh and run the machine empty on Thursday, especially if you're doing it because you work and this is your day off and the right day to do it, I would say that it's not a problem to have. It's not really different than, let's say you have a dry cleaners that doesn't do 1 day cleaning, or you don't have to pay extra, let's say, to do 1 day cleaning to do it on Thursday if you want to drop it off on Wednesday and pay the a cheaper price for a 3 day or a week cleaning. So yeah, in such a case, I believe that would be okay, especially that you're also cleaning clothing that are for the week. Okay, he says like this. We're talking about what does it mean, a delicacy which is not available every day? So he brings down like this. If it is something that is available, you need not set it aside for Shabbos. So for instance, fruits and vegetables or chicken or meat, these are regular things that you could find constantly. There's no reason for you to go buy it on Sunday if you could buy it on Thursday. But you may use it, you don't have to set it aside for Shabbos, but you may use it in the hope that you will find one of better quality later in the week. So you could, if you find a nice piece of meat, you can eat it now, and hopefully you'll find another nice piece of meat the next day for Shabbos. Okay, that's one thing he adds over here. Hello, Julian. He says as well, Eve of Shabbos means Friday. Okay, now he's talking about what about the question about praying, about going to shop on Friday morning before you pray. So he says this is the law according to Rashi and Tur. However, the Mishnah Brura, it means the Chafetz Chaim, rules that you may purchase your Shabbos needs before the morning prayers only if the better produce will be sold out on time by the time you pray. Let's say, and this happens more in places like New York or Jerusalem, in places like Seattle, places that are not a lot of people buying for Shabbos, so it may not be the rush. But everyone knows in Yerushalayim you have to get early to the bakeries or to the stores because there's thousands of people buying food for Shabbos, and if you come late, I tell my wife, if you're going to come to the supermarket on Friday in Jerusalem, after 10 o'clock, there may not be fish. It's very likely the fish runs out. So in that case, the Mishnah Brewer says then and only then you could go shopping before you pray. However, if you're going to live in a place or there's an abundance of supply, then so then you should first daven. Again, I'm not gonna. The Rashi, the Mishnah Berurah seems to say clearly it's all about supply and demand. I think we could include in that time management. And what I mean by time management is it's not just, for instance, shopping at 10 o'clock in a busy place like New York or Jerusalem. Again, where there's a lot of people shopping and there's traffic. So what could take 20 minutes, quickly zooming over to the supermarket that's open 24 hours or opens really early at 5 in the morning and get your shopping done in 20 minutes could end up being a 2-hour story if you do it later. Yes, Barbara.
Hi, Rabbi. What was the statement you said that we should make when we're purchasing for Shabbat? The
Kavod Shabbos Kodesh. The kavod means in honor of Shabbos. So when you buy something, you say, "I'm buying this in honor of Holy Shabbos."
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm wondering about the Mishnah Berurah's psak that says that only if the items will be sold out, if like heavy time management issues would also be enough, according to the Mishnah Berurah, to allow the person to go shopping, even according to the Mishnah Berurah. Hold on Erev Shabbos. Let me just finish off what he says here. Kriya Shema, even according to the Mishnah Berurah, he says, but a person should make sure to say the Shema should be recited before going to the market. So even if it's in a situation where you can go to the market, according to all opinions, you should try to say the Shema before. Yes, Aaron.
Okay, so the shop, which is right down the corner from me, less than a 5-minute walk. On Thursday they open late, like till 11, even on holidays till midnight. And some holidays they open 24 hours for a few days before the holiday. So does that make any difference for the shopping on Thursday versus Friday?
Say that again one more time.
Okay, the shop, which is right around the corner from me, a lot of Jewish shops in Brooklyn do this. So they open until 11 or midnight on Thursday, and then regular shopping hours, and they close like 2-3 hours before Shabbat on Friday. So if they're open late, extra hours on Thursday, does it make better sense to shop on Thursday, or still better to shop on Friday?
Again, listen, the fact is, a lot of people do the shopping on Thursday. Friday shopping is very, very stressful for a lot of people, and especially in the winter months. So we're talking about preferably, if you can, and it's not a major disruption. See, there's two things over here. Shopping on Thursday versus Friday is different than the question of shopping before you daven. Shopping before you daven goes into the question, are you allowed to do mundane things before you daven? The idea is a person should daven before you do anything else. That's what he's saying. So it's maybe even possible that the Mishnah Berurah would hold that it's better to shop on Thursday than to shop Friday before you daven, because shopping on Thursday you're not shopping before you daven, but you're not doing it on Friday. So the question is, shopping before you daven is another question. It's not about a Friday Shabbos question. It's about doing something mundane, or doing, even though it's not really mundane, it's for Shabbos, but doing a weekly thing before you daven. That's why people go to the Nate's minyan. They daven early in the morning. The first thing you do in the morning is to daven, is to pray. So it could possibly be that if the question is that you're going to be late in your prayers, then it could be that it's better to pray to shop on Thursday. Again, if it's inconvenient to shop on Friday and it really messes up your time schedule and your cooking, he says clearly, then you shop on Thursday. But
I'll just say this,
say that again?
On Friday, you may not have food in the stores.
Yeah, that's what exactly. So that's what he says. If there's no food, for sure you shop on Thursday. He rules over here. The Mishnah Berurah rules that when there's a possibility that the good produce may be sold out, you must purchase the necessities for Shabbos, even if you miss praying at the congregation. So here he goes in another extreme, that preferably you should not daven. You should daven before if it's not as good quality. But if you're certain it's going to be sold out, then even if you miss a minyan, it's better to make sure you have food for Shabbos than to daven with the minyan. That's a big psak, a big ruling. The The reason why he says over here that it's preferable to make purchases on Friday. Why? Because when God sent the man, which was the food for Shabbos in the desert, he sent it on Friday. He didn't send it on Thursday. So when did the Jewish people get a double portion of man? Was on Friday. Because the man was double portion on Friday, we see that on Friday was when God, so to say, gave the Jewish people their food for Shabbos. So the Magen Avram, which is one of the main Ashkenazic poskim, says that's why it's preferable, if you can, to do at least some of your purchases on Shabbos, maybe challah, certain things that are easier. Okay, and when he talks about washing your clothes on Thursday, he says to wash the clothing that will be worn on Shabbos on Thursday. Again, Aaron, to run a machine separately, just so you should wash on Thursday over Friday, especially if you're busy when you work, and it's easier for you to do during on a Sunday than it's included in your Sunday washing. I think it's okay. Okay, let's just do one more law. He says like this: Mitzvah kol adam. The commandment is for everyone. All right, let's say you have a lot of help at home. Baruch Hashem, God blessed you that you have a lot of help, that you don't need to really do so much yourself. So you would think that as long as your help is able to provide for you services to get the house ready for Shabbos, that you're good. You don't have to do anything. A person themselves, and it means even he and she, not just he or she. If you're a family, a couple, both of you, you should do something that you should do something yourself. You don't have to, doesn't mean you have to do everything, but something you should definitely do in your participation of getting the home and the house and the family ready for Shabbos. And we find this, he quotes different scholars in the times of the Talmud, the Matzina Ba'amaroyim. There were different scholars like Rav Chizda, is Machatich as a Yerek Dak. He would cut up the vegetables in honor of Shabbos very thin. Evidently, Rav Chizda didn't need to do it himself, but he wanted to participate, so he made the salad. Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yosef were both giants, leaders of the generation of the yeshiva, but they went out and chopped wood themselves to have wood to cook and to have the house warm for Shabbos. Reb Zera madlikas eish, Reb Zera would light the fire. Reb Nachman, another Amor, another sage at the times of the Talmud, he would organize the house and bring in the Shabbos utensils, and he would take out the weekly utensils. So each one did something differently. And from one who analyzes the behavior of these great sages that were busy, and also they weren't people that necessarily during the week kind of got domesticated. Nevertheless, they were for Shabbos they did. So therefore, a person should not say ever, it's beneath me. It's not my honor for me to start cutting salads. I'm a wealthy man. I have plenty of help at home. Why do I have to cut the salad? No, you should be there to cut the salad. It's your honor. It's your privilege to have an opportunity to participate in Shabbos. Let's just see the commentaries on this. He says, the Shulchan Aruch says like this. Says that, and also the Gemara says that you should try to do, while the Rambam says that you are obligated. Okay, so the Be'er Halacha says there's a question. The Shulchan Aruch says that you should try to do something for Shabbos if you can, and the Rambam says it's obligatory. You must do something for Shabbos. It's not an option. That's important to know. I think we have time for one more. So he says like this, okay. The custom by Jewish people is such. This is a big mitzvah, especially for the women. We're going to see why it's specifically a mitzvah for the woman to bake chalas. Lechem is chalas, is bread, in honor of Shabbos. Even surely that's certainly if during the week you're not so careful the kind of bread you eat, you rely on the ruling that says you could eat non-Jewish baked bread from a bakery. Palter means a bakery, not home baked. Palter because it's different if you're going to buy home baked bread, if you're going to buy bakery baked bread, where there's certain rules, regulations, right? The FDA is not in someone's house where there's rules of how a person could bake there in their own home. Sheish lizar le'echel b'yom Shabbos kodesh pas Yisrael. A person should be careful, diligent to eat only Jewish baked bread on Shabbos. Even if you only go to Jewish bakeries during the week, then you should upgrade by baking in your house the bread. So the woman of the house, specifically, this is when the mitzvah is given to women, should be able to participate in the separation of the tithing of the bread known as hafrashas challah, separating the dough for the kohen. Ki Adam Rishon. Why is this a mitzvah connected specifically to women? We know the three mitzvahs connected especially to women, known as Chana. The Rebbe is called Chana. That's the name of the Rebbe's mother, which is Chala, Neiras Kodesh, and Nida, keeping the laws of family purity, and Adlakas and Neiras, and lighting the candles. Those are the three mitzvahs that are kept, that are specifically for the woman. So why is Chala part of those mitzvahs? We know that Rivka, our mother Rivka, kept those laws. Ki Adam Harishain Nivra be'erev Shabbos, because first man was born, was created on Friday. He was like the chala of the world. And by Chava, our mother Chava, giving Adam, first man, from the tree of knowledge, good and bad, she downgraded by offering it to him. She downgraded his status. So it's for her to fix, because she gave first man from the tree of knowledge. And he says one should make 3 loaves of bread on Friday. We'll see in a second, it's not so simple because you need really to have 4 loaves of bread. But you should have 3 loaves of bread on Shabbos. Gadol ubeinini v'katan. One should be a larger, one should be medium, one should be smaller. Habeinini, the middle one, should be for the Friday night meal, where you eat less at night. Hagadol, the main meal, which is the Sudas Hayom, the lunch, that should be the bigger challah. And this is not just because it's a bigger meal, but lahara is to show that the day is more holy. The cotton, and the smaller one is, of course, for the afternoon meal, known as the shalashud. The shalashud is the third meal that we do before the end of Shabbos, the Shabbos. Hold on, Aaron. We're going to get to the footnotes first, and we'll get back to your question in a second. Because I want to get into one idea about the 4 loaves of bread.
That's what I have a question.
Okay, so he says, why Erev Shabbos, and why was the first man called the Chala of the world? So he quotes the Yishalmi. The Talmud Yishalmi says, as the dough is completed by separating Chala, so the world was completed with the creation of man, the object of the object of the creation. So the whole purpose of creation, the Machzah Shekel says, is first man, and which means man and woman are voda. And because we kind of sinned early on, and that happened from Eve, so therefore it's up to the woman of giving Adam to eat from the Eitz Hadas. So therefore the woman is the one who has the mitzvah of separating the challah. Okay, when he says that that you have to have 3 challahs, right? So he says, but you must make the bracha hamoitzi on 2 whole challahs at all 3 meals, which means to say, Barbara, one sec, which means to say that if you eat, you have to have, we do lechem mishnah, we have 2 loaves of bread every time we cut bread. So if, let's say the night meal is you have 3 loaves, so you have 2 and you eat 1, so that's fine. The day meal, you have 2 left, so you eat 1, and now you have the afternoon meal, meaning the evening meal, before Shabbos is over, the 3rd meal. So if you ate both loaves of bread in the first 2 meals, you have to have a 4th one to be able to open the bread on the 3rd one, even though if you don't eat it. Yes, Rebecca. Sorry. Yes, Rebecca. Rebecca, you wanted to ask something?
Yes. So I have a family member. She doesn't do her freshest challah because she only wants to bake challah for that week. She doesn't like to freeze and use it for another week. So is it better if she bakes her own challah every week and doesn't use enough flour to do a freshest challah, or if she buys challah from a store every week that's, and has a proper hechsher and whatever?
That's an excellent question. What Rebecca's asking is basically there's a minimum of dough that has to be used to make hafrashas challah, and if below that minimum, if you make a very small dough, and like to make 1 or 2 loaves of bread, then you don't make the bracha. You separate, but you don't make the bracha on the Rosh Challah. You can't make the blessing. And so Rebecca is asking, what is better? If you're already freezing, if she doesn't like to freeze at all, if she's already freezing, it's better. It's better to try to make. I know a lot of women. She's not the only one. I know a lot of women who never make the blessing. They don't make enough flour. They don't like to make, like the same situation. They don't make enough bread, and therefore they say you separate the challah, you don't make the blessing. It's a mitzvah to make the bracha. Should try to do it. I still think that versus a bakery, I still think the bakery it'd be better to bake challah at home. I know most women do that, even if they don't make the blessing. Yes, Bob.
Okay, thanks.
Rabbi, my question is how much flour are you supposed to use to make a challah that's, worthy of a blessing?
Rebecca, do you know that answer? I know my wife keeps on telling me, and I keep on forgetting.
Yeah, it's 5 pounds of flour.
5 pounds. That's 5 pounds of flour is a lot. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm one person.
Yeah. No, that's
Live by myself.
a lot
Right.
of
So
people.
most women either they freeze what's left or they give it away to other people.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 pounds of flour is a lot. Yeah, I think it's 2 kilos. Yes, Aaron.
Just one thing, and then I want to answer my question. Like when people pass away on that Shabbos, they make sure they say the blessing, and then they give away a lot of bread with the names and the blessing under it that you're supposed to make for.
Yes.
So, but my question was this: so you gave an amount, the big loaf, the small loaf, the medium loaf, when you're supposed to eat it. Okay, so on Shabbos you're supposed to have 2 loaves. So what size loaf do you do? What's the 2 sizes on Shabbos? Friday, and on Shabbos Saturday the 2 loaves, and which one would you cut?
No, okay. So he says the first of all, there's a lot of customs how we do the bread. If we put one bread on top of the bread or next to the bread, that's another question. The halacha says that we have the right bread leaning on top of the left bread. Some people do certain days by day, certain days by night. Kabbalistic Hasidic idea is that we keep the breads equally. The 2 breads, besides that they represent the 2, Rebecca, hold on, I'll get to you in a second. Aside for the fact that they represent the 2 portions of man that we received from heaven in the desert, also in Kabbalistic teachings, the 2 loaves represent the man and the woman. And so the Alter Rebbe is tonight is Yitzchak Kislev, so we mentioned the idea of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe talks about the 2 loaves, that the reason why halachically the the loaf, which represents the man, the left loaf, which represents the woman, is the right loaf is on top of the left loaf, is because in the way things are before Mashiach comes, the man is giving to the woman. But according to the teachings of the Arizal, Kabbalistic teachings, where on Shabbos the world gets elevated and man and woman are equal, so the 2 loaves should not be one on top of the next, but one equal next to each other. The right and left loaves should be sitting equally next to each other, as opposed to the right one over the left one. So we always cut the right one first, and we don't. If you're going to cut, the one you plan on eating should be the right challah, because in Judaism we always use right over left. And you should chesed, it's kindness, is versus the gvura. You should make sure to use the one that you want. So he said the medium size is at night, the larger one is by day. Again, you have to have an available 4th one to make the hamotzi on the 3rd loaf, which some people don't, if you're not going to eat a whole loaf, but you have to break into a new loaf. So you had to have gone through 2 loaves already by the afternoon. So then whichever one you want to use, put it next. But the one that you're not making hamotzi on, I don't know if it makes a difference if it's the smaller one or the medium-sized one, but it's always nicer to have something bigger than smaller. Yes, Rebecca.
I'm not sure if you already said this, but do you need to use lecha mishnah for shalosh shadas?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You need a 4th loaf. Because
okay.
Yeah, you
But
have
what
to.
about the people who don't eat bread on Shabbos shooters? I know people, they say, I ate
Okay,
it
so
on Friday.
yeah. No. Chabad doesn't wash on Shabbat. It's our minhag. We don't wash on Shabbat. If you don't wash then you don't need the 4th loaf. Yes, Barbara.
I was just wondering when, like in my case, I live by myself, and I mean, I know my rabbi's wife sells challah, so I could get a challah from her, but obviously I'm not going to be able to use all that bread up, all the challah up. So how would that apply to me in my situation?
Okay, we're going to address in a second, not now, next week, I think we're going to get to the question of leftovers on Shabbos. What is it? How do we deal with leftovers of Shabbos? It's not so
Wait,
simple.
Rabbi, sorry to interrupt, but can't she just use rolls, challah
Yeah,
rolls?
yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah,
that's what I do because I live alone also.
yes. I
Because
mean, if you
you
go
just need to use like two whole rolls for
like a
most
bagel,
cases.
like a bagel size roll, even a bagel is kosher
Okay.
if it's
You
complete.
think just because you
Okay.
have a family that we eat all this bread? I have a girl and my wife, and they don't want to eat all this bread because it makes you.
Hmm.
Yeah. Listen, we have leftover bread, and it's not so simple how to deal. Again, we're going to get to the halachas. There's laws about
But
how the holiness of the food should, there's a Jewish custom, old Jewish custom that Sunday night we eat leftovers. When I
we
grew
do
up,
the same.
yeah. So my father would go to the extreme. He would even heat up the cholent. I don't know if people do that today, but we don't like to throw out leftovers. You try to you don't want to see you don't want to be small-minded when it comes to Shabbos. You don't want to make small portions. It's an idea of having harchava, but at the same time, you don't want. It says clearly in halacha you should not throw out food from Shabbos. Yes, Rebecca.
I know you're not up to this yet, but can I ask a question about candle lighting?
Okay. If I know it, I'll answer it.
Um, so I don't know if Chabad holds by this, but a lot of people here like they light with a t'nai if they're not ready exactly to take on like if they want to light on time, but they need to use a little bit of the 18 minutes, so then they light candles with a t'nai that they're lighting, but they take on Shabbos like after they do whatever the last thing is they need to do. Is that okay?
It's not a plan A. It means you shouldn't make that part of your schedule. If like for instance, here's an example of this, where people want to light the Shabbos, a woman wants to light the Shabbos candles at home. The idea is like this. There's a question, where do you light it if you're eating out? But traditionally, the idea is that the house should be full of light. So if you're eating out dinner by someone and you need a drive to get there, even if you're going to walk back, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in those cases, people will make the tonight. But to consistently run like that your Shabbos is just, you're lighting candles and you always make every week, you have another reason to make a condition not to accept the Shabbos until later. That's not the idea. The idea is you're supposed to take Shabbos in early. Even men should not be doing work in that 18 minutes. But men don't like the candles, so we haven't accepted. You have those 18 minutes, which we'll talk about. The 18 minutes is from when you light the candles until the actual sunset. But preferably, you're supposed to take in Shabbos early. That's part of the mitzvah. So to have like let's every Shabbos you have to drive to shul. Let's say certain people, let's say you go to shul every Friday night, and every Friday night you want to have candles lit at home, and every Friday night you take the subway or you take
An Uber or
an
something.
Uber to shul, right? So okay, fine. There's nothing you can do. It means that's just how your Shabbos is. But if it's small things like you want to run the wash, or you want to turn it on off the stove or the heater or take a shower, certain things that you don't that you just kind of not really planning in Shabbos properly, that's different. But if it's literally if part of your schedule is that you daven in shul and you take a subway before Shabbos, then it's probably okay. But it should.
Let me ask you this: if you have to take a subway to shul, unless you're an elder person who has trouble walking, how are you getting back if it's that far?
And we're not. That's another question. We'll get to that in its time. That's you're not allowed to go to shul if you have to desecrate the Shabbos. There's other ways to get home. Is by wheelchair. A lot of people who are not only in a situation where they're unable to walk back, but it's a long walk. I know, but when we grew up as kids, Seattle was always far from the shul. My father always drives to shul and walks back. So a lot of people. It's in New York. It's not really. People don't get in the car unless it's an emergency. You don't get in the car in New York, but in other places in the world, people like to get into their car.
Where my parents live, it's a half an hour
Yeah.
walk.
Okay,
Big
so
deal.
you drive Friday night and you would walk back Friday night. So
We
that's
just.
okay. So
My
if your
son says
wife
you're
wanted
lazy.
to, sorry?
My son says you're lazy if you can't walk for half an
Okay,
hour.
that's another discussion for
No,
well,
but really, in New York, if you're elder, they'll ask. Sometimes they ask me, "Can you go pick up this elder person from our shul, take him to and from shul?" It's a
okay,
mitzvah.
so of course you're pushing them in the wheelchair and there's an Eruv. Listen, today in Yerushalayim they've invented a mobile a mobile little cart that runs on electricity that's permitted to use on Shabbos. They figured out a way that you could actually use electronic, like go-kart. that handicapped people use to move around on Shabbos, and it's halachically permissible.
There's two things that my rabbi said. One for people who are medically necessary to use stuff, and the other for the sick. They said first is save a life. So if you have to break Shabbos to save a life, do so. That's more important than Shabbos, especially if it's a Jewish person. And anything you can do to help someone who's disabled to enjoy Shabbos is a mitzvah, even if he has to take some cart or something.
No, that's true. Yes, Barbara.
When you were talking about that electric cart, is that like a cart that would run on batteries? I mean, I'm talking about a mobile cart that the battery charges and on an outlet, and then you put it in, and that's it.
It's not so. It's a special. You mean you would have to buy that special one. It's not just like any go kart that you could get in for a golf cart. No, it's specially made by. There's an institution in Jerusalem or in Israel called I think the Halpern Institute. They're the ones who invented the Shabbos elevator, right? There's a Shabbos elevator that goes up and down in the hotels or apartment buildings. So the same institution that made the Shabbos elevator. I believe also invented this kind of card. So it's just, I'm not familiar with the exact electronics of it, but they figured out, they're very knowledgeable about the laws of Shabbos and very knowledgeable about electronics. Yeah, it's not you could be a rabbi who knows the laws of Shabbos, but if you don't know the science of electronics, you're not really, it's not going to help much. And if you know the science, you don't know the laws, it's not going to help much. You need an institution that are very familiar with the laws of Shabbos and also very familiar with how electronics work. And if you really know both of them, and there's a lot you could figure out. I heard once from, I'll finish off with this, I have to go. I've heard from Rabbi Deitch once, he said that the Rabbi Halperin, who started the institute, went to the Israeli government and said to them that if they would let him go into the Kehilchathah is the electric company of Israel, he can make it so that a lot of religious villages in Jerusalem, in Israel, run off generators. They don't want to use the electric company. He goes, he could figure it out that everyone could use the electric company if they just gave him a little time to tweak up things a bit. Yes, Rebecca.
I just wanted to make a quick comment, if it's okay. Sure. A bunch of different rabbis suggested to me recently to take on Shabbos a couple of minutes early, in addition to like being very careful about observing Shabbos carefully. And it makes a huge difference in the way the whole week goes. Like things that were problems before, thank God, are not problems anymore. Things are getting better. Like everything goes differently because I've seen in my life that it's really true that Shabbos is the source of bracha for the rest of the week. So I just encourage everybody to try that, just to take on Shabbos a couple of minutes early and just see what happens. It's really great.
Yashakach, Tiskul Mitzvahs. Thank you everyone for joining. And we'll see you back at this class next week, Be'ezus Hashem, Wednesday night.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi.